Hello everybody, here, and I'm going to be doing some computer work today. And as you can see in Computerland is not very clean. So I'm going to shove some stuff out of the way so I can actually get into the place, and then we'll get to work. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, so I've cleared myself an area, and if the camera will focus, I've moved this guy, the Dell Poweredge, I don't know right now because I'm not bothering to look, into my designated work area for the moment. I'm going to get this monitor set up, which I have not tested, so that'll be nice to test. I'll get that set up, I'll get the mouse and keyboard set up, and actually I'm going to do an overview first. So I'll do that first, I'll get back with you. As I was going to go into before I had to cut the video, this is a Dell Poweredge 1800. This model features a tape drive, the number 2 on it, that does not come factory installed, a floppy drive, and a different DVD-ROM drive than what was originally in there. The original was a CD-ROM and I needed a DVD-ROM, so I put that in there. Down here you can see the power button, the something, whatever that is button is probably the drive indicator button, the health status button, which blinks I think, the information button, which I think opens help and support, and 2 front side USB ports. Has an Intel Inside Xeon, which is quite obvious, and it has the lock over here, which I have a set of keys for. It's currently in the locked position, so shove the key in there, give it a healthy turn, remove the key, and probably drop it on the floor. And in order to open the unit, you can either use the thing up here, or you can use this up here. Either way gets the front panel off, and you can just set it aside. Here you can access the drive bay, the button board, which is easily replaceable with 3 screws, one of the fan mounts, I think down here, maybe not, I don't know, you can easily remove the USB hub in the front, and the side panel removes from the inside with 3 thumb screws. You also have a chassis intrusion switch, which triggers when the system is on and the front panel is removed. So you just have to remove all of these screws, and the front panel slides forward. Let me get it open. So the front panel slides forward, then it can just be tilted off and set aside. Inside the front panel you can see the diagrams for setting everything up and what everything is, and yada yada yada. Inside of the system itself you can see the dual Xeons, all of the drives, in which I have all 6 bays filled in this case, the expansion card area, which has 1 card installed, whole 1 card, where would be a SCSI interface, I think, right there, because it has this SCSI thing, the button battery, CR2032 clock, and then there's a fan right there. I didn't have the camera in the right position the whole time. Up here you can see the fan grill thing, and somewhere behind there is the RAM. Up here you can see one of the 2 massive power supplies that I think spit out a whole 730 watts each. They also have their own fans that trigger as soon as you put power into it. So, I'm now going to close this back up and we're going to get it set up to run. So I'll be right back when I have that all set up. It occurred to me again before I started hooking everything up that I did not show the back panel. So on the back panel you can see the massive power supplies. And particularly right on the back you can see the ginormous 450 volt capacitor. These power supplies are fully removable. If I can do this with one hand, yes I can. You just pull them down and they slide out like so. They're not particularly hard to remove, which Dell was designing them for. They go in the same way, and they are locked in place. On the back you can also see the PS2 keyboard and mouse ports at the top, the serial, parallel, and VGA connectivities things. I'm not sure what that is, jack back there with an I. The 2 backside USB ports, as well as the gigabit Ethernet port, and the information button, which I think also displays health status on the LED. Down in the expansion card residue, you can see another gigabit Ethernet thing. NIC card, that's what it's called, or just NIC, rather. So these can be bonded to get an effective 2 gigabits per second, as well as the reliability. Up here you can see the massive cooling fan, which has no dust on it whatsoever. So now I'm going to get on to powering this thing up, finally, and we'll do what I need to do with it. Alright, so I have everything set up all nice. I have my loyal Dell Ball USB mouse, the nice and cheap Hewlett-Packard Topper keyboard, and I have the Gemini surge protector down here as well. Now let me show you how this works as soon as I plug it in. It powers on the fan for that immediately, which I've discovered actually is needed, because on a different Dell Poweredge model, the fan does not turn on with the power supply and subsequently gets quite hot even during standby. This system claims to have a problem with it, even though I really don't think it does, so it flashes that light. And once you get over here to the other side, you are able to turn it on with the power button. This will get loud, so turn down your volume now. I'll give you 3 seconds. Okay, maybe it wasn't as loud as I thought, but as you can see now it's starting to boot up, and it will go through the entire memory test, so I'll probably skip this in the final cut. But I'm going to get into the RAID utility because I need to fix the RAID on this. I have it configured so that all 6 of its drives are configured in a massive RAID 10, whereas I only want 4 of them configured in a RAID 10 with 2 as hot spares. And the reason I want 2 as hot spares is because 2 of them are 7,200 RPM, while the other 4 are 10,000 RPM. They're all SATA too, so yeah. And when I said SATA 2, I'm pretty sure I meant SATA 2. So as you can see, it's detected the 2 3 GHz Xeon NetBurst processors. I think I need to get into the LSI config utility, so I probably just screwed this up. Oh no, it wasn't the LSI config utility. Alright. It's the Adaptec one that I want, I'm pretty sure. BIOS initialized successfully. Oh, I didn't go in there in time. Okay. Wow, I probably need to restart this. Alright, I guess it's not going to scream at me. I guess it only screams at me when I take the front cover off. Okay, so I want to be in the array configuration utility. I want to manage my arrays. I named my array Meow when I created it. So, I have to remember how to delete the array. It's just Dell. Alright. Yes, I want to delete the array. The array, rather. Alright, no arrays present, so I'm going to create an array. I'm going to make the array of this drive, if I can find the insert key, this drive, this drive, this drive, and this drive. And complete the selection. I want it to be a RAID 10. I want the array to be array. It's going to be 148 gigabytes in size. Yep. 64 kilobit strip size. Enable read caching, yes. Write caching disabled. Build verify. I'm just going to do quick initialization, and the rebuild rate is going to be high, I think. Done. So it's going to create the array. And I gotta remember, okay, so it's going to remain in quick init until it gets done. Alright, so I want to make an array, I think. Maybe. Okay, so here's how you enable global failover drive. To G. Control G. So you hit the required hot spare capacity for this array is 74.4 gigabytes. Assigning any drive with less capacity will not allow the drive to fail over in the event of redundancy loss on this array. Alright, so to assign hot spare drives, you assign them with insert. So I'm going to insert both of those as hot spares. Alright, so enter, save and exit. If you finish managing hot spare drives, and you're going to want to enter Y. So, alright, now managing my arrays, I should have this array perfectly done. Alright, so okay. Now I think I want to initialize. No, get out of that. No, I guess no. Okay, that's not what I want to do. Alright. So, I already have my global failover drives. Hot spare drive assignments. Maybe that was what I wanted. Okay. So drives. Okay, yeah. I think I have it the way I want it. I'm just going to check. Make sure that. Yeah, alright, that's quick in it. That's quick in it. Alright. So I think it's okay. Alright. I'm going to exit the array configuration utility now. And disk utilities. I'm not sure what that does, but whatever. Okay, so I am going to get my disks ready, and I'll get the disks. Have a choice of a few here. Let me just get them all lined out. So these are the choices of operating systems that I'm going to use. We have Crunchbang 32-bit, Crunchbang 11, Bodhi Linux 2.4, 32-bit, Linux Mint 17 Cinnamon, Linux Mint 17 XFCE, and Ubuntu 14.10. I'm going to start with Linux Mint Cinnamon, and I'm going to assume it's going to fail quite horribly because I'm pretty sure that this has a really small frame buffer, and the one that I have upstairs that's a Dell Poweredge only has an 8 megabyte frame buffer, and it barely runs Crunchbang without lagging to hell. So let's go and exit the utility. Alright, so it's going to probably try and boot into the thingamajig CD, and I will skip to that point. Alright, so it saw the Linux Mint disk successfully, which is good. I'm just going to straight try it in compatibility mode because I know for a fact it will fail if I try in regular mode. So I'm going to skip until this, fails or boots up successfully. Okay, so at the desktop finally, and it looks pretty ugly. So I'm going to jack the settings on this to max, and we'll see how that resolution is handled within the frame buffer. It may be great, it may be horrible, it may be somewhere in between, but I can already see a visible lag with this frame buffer. And I think this is one of the higher frame buffers of the Dell Poweredge series. I think it's a 64 megabyte frame buffer, which is not great. And yeah, Mint Cinnamon does not even see that, so I think Mint Cinnamon might work alright, but I can always install XFCE and use that if need be, so it's really not a big deal if it fails. So I'm going to get the installer started, and that's going to take a while, so I'll be back when the installer pops up. Okay, so here we are at the installer screen. I'm just going to hit next, 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 because that's how it goes up until this point. It's going to be very laggy, as we should know by this point, because it's running off of a DVD. And, as we should all know by this point, DVDs are absolutely the fastest medium of installing an operating system. Just without a doubt, the fastest. If anybody tries to argue with me about this over YouTube, I'm just going to straight block you because you know nothing. To anybody who actually thinks I'm being serious when I say that, no offense, but you have a little bit of learning to do in the IT field. DVDs and CDs are probably the slowest medium of installing anything in the modern era. It may have been okay when installing like XP or something like that, but it's just not anymore. It's so slow. Especially when you have an ISO size of over 1 gigabyte and it has to load at least 500 megabytes of that into RAM. So, it's pretty bad. But it's getting there. It's not the slowest I've ever seen anything go, but it's not really the fastest by far, so count your blessings. This will start up eventually, and I'll just let you listen to the hard drive noises for a minute. Actually, no, I won't, because that's kind of useless. I'll just get to the point where this is finished after it's done. So, yep, it's going now, and it's copying files at the astounding rate of speed that it's going. And since this is a dual Xeon 3 GHz system, and I think it's actually hyper-threaded on both CPUs too, it'll act as if it's using a dual-core CPU, or one would think anyway. So this won't go terribly slow once it gets to the point where it doesn't need the CD as much. So I will be back when the installer finishes. Okay, so the installer has finished, and I will restart the computer. Okay, so we're going to begin to boot up in just a second. Going to stick the camera by the drive so you can hear them. Okay, so here we are at the login screen. Yeah, it's not too terrible laggy. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. I can at least make it work. It's not exactly speedy either. Takes quite a bit of time to do anything. Okay, so now we have the full resolution, and it's not... Oh, Cinnamon crashed. That means it's not going to work. Yep, alright, so I'm going to need to get XFCE, because Cinnamon is not going to work unless it's in compatibility mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the update manager, and I'm going to refresh the packages. Actually, no, I have to hook up the internet thing first. So, let me get the network thing hooked up, and I will get back with you. Okay, so I've got my trusty D-Link DWA-140 revision B hooked up. So it's going to be able to do the internet. And I have to type in the password. Alright, so now the password is entered, and it should connect to the network. Once connected to the network, I should be able to run the update manager and refresh the packages. The D-Link DWA-140 is ticking away. So I assume it's connected, so I'm going to refresh the packages now. Okay, so the package selection has been refreshed, and we're getting the Mint update prompt, which is exactly what I want. So now I'm going to find the software manager and get that all working. So, opening up the package installer, and with that I will be able to install XFCE. Okay, XFCE 4, and it's got like a whole 6 megs to download apparently, so I'll be back when that finishes. Okay, XFCE has finished downloading and is now installing. This will take but a few seconds, and then I'll be able to log back out. And then I'll have to log back in and set XFCE as the default. And for those who don't know how to do it, I'll show it because it's really not all that hard. Here's the disk chunking away. Not exactly chunking away, but whatevs. Hopefully XFCE will work a little bit better than Cinnamon. So, yep. Nearly done. And we're done. We're done. Yeah, okay, we're done. Alright, so, now, going to log out. Figured out how to do it. Apparently pressing Control-Alt-Delete triggers a logout prompt. So here we are at the login screen once again. In order to select XFCE as the default desktop, you go up here into the top right of the login box, select this thing. It will eventually trigger a pop-up menu. And what you want to do is find your XFCE session thing, click it, and then log in as normal. Okie dokie, so we're finally at the box that asks if you want to make XFCE default. And I'm going to make default because that's what I want to do. Okay, so we're now on the XFCE desktop, which looks nice and Linux Mint. And welcome to the first start of the panel. And I'm going to want default config because that's how I roll. So this is the XFCE desktop. It's really nothing special. I think it looks a bit different if you install it with the Linux Mint XFCE install disk, but that's perfectly fine that it looks this way. And it runs buttery smooth. So 64 megabytes apparently is plenty enough to run this. So I'm going to do a bunch of various things to this, and that'll be basically it. I'm just going to be updating it and stuff like that. So this video is pretty much over. I hope you enjoyed everything about this video. If you didn't, then oh well. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.